So I've come to the realization in the last couple of years that I may not be the best at dirty talk. You might even say that I'm just downright bad at it. I was hooking up with my ex-boyfriend a couple years ago, and this was like kind of the beginning of our relationship. And he looks at me all sexy and was like, "Say something dirty." And I just blurted out, "Mud wrestling." Kind of killed the mood, but that was a couple years ago. We've gotten better, right? I used to be so bad at dirty talk actually that on the dating apps when you're messaging, people are like, "What are you into?" And I'm like, "Ooh, long walks. I really enjoy new restaurants." So we've gotten better than that now. I was hooking up with someone recently and they blurted out, "On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like fucking?"
What?
7? Kind of threw me off there with the 1 to 10 scale. I was kind of looking for like a Likert 1 to 5 where I could be like neutral to somewhat agree. I started working out in a new routine last year. It's called Don't. Just don't do it. It's truly body transformative. You can gain like 35 pounds with zero effort. It's really fun. But I will warn you, it does change your sort of life orientation a little bit. Like when my friends from the running club were like, "Hey, let's go for a run." And I'm like, Netflix doesn't watch itself. Little things. I actually broke my foot last year. Which is one of the reasons we kind of stopped working out. But I had a whole entourage kit, right? Like we had the food that was on for like 4 months. I got myself one of those little knee scooters to kind of hop around town. And when you're out and about like that, everyone wants to know, how did you do it? And so I was like, well, I was riding a unicorn through the magic forest and we were attacked by a centaur, which seems to be the answer everyone was expecting. So that went really well. But then I was at church, and when we were at church, like this little old lady, Mrs. Smith, she's lovely. She's probably in her 80s. But like church people don't really they don't look highly upon fantastical stories and events, right? So obviously the unicorn thing wasn't going to work. So she's like, "Chris, how did you break your foot?" And I'm like, "All right, I just have to be honest with her." So I leaned over and I said, "Gertrude, it was a terrible, terrible masturbation accident." Too much lube. So I've been going to my therapist more often now, which basically means I'm getting a haircut once a week because my hairstylist, David, is way cheaper. He also asks a lot of really probing questions. Like, I want to talk about my sex life, or lack thereof, and he's always like, "But tell me more about the condo board," right? So we're working that out still, but it's definitely going really well. I used to work at a Boy Scout camp back in Kentucky, and the staff was made up of Eagle Scouts mostly, somewhere between the ages of 18 to 30, right? And I really enjoy going home for the holidays because it's kind of like a mini staff reunion at the local gay bar. It's called the White Swallow. So, named after the bird, just to be clear. But it is actually really heartwarming when you are on a camp staff, right? Because you get this warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that as you're sending 10, 11, 12-year-olds back to their parents, that you've instilled all of these life skills, right? 1, how to smoke a cigarette, right? 2, what are the ingredients that go into bourbon? And then of course 3, all of the lashings and knots you'll ever need for bondage sex. So it's really heartwarming. I used to also be an RA when I was in college, and those standard things like writing up stupid people, whatever, right? But to be clear, I went to an engineering school, so most of our parties that we were busting were things like Magic the Gatherings that got a little too heated, It's good stuff. My favorite party that we ever had to break up was the swimmer party. And so we got a noise complaint, and I was like, you never know with the swimmers, they're kind of a rowdy bunch, right? And so we roll up, knock on the door, it's opened, and we are greeted with this highly belligerent drunk girl dressed as a beach ball. And I'm like, curiosity piqued, okay. So we go in, they replaced all of their common lighting with black lights, so it's a little hard to see at first when you walk in. They're all in Speedos and bikinis, And I'm looking around, and like they have this kiddie pool in the middle of the room full of all this brown stuff.
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, Patrick, what is going on here, right? And he just looks at me and shrugs his shoulder and says, mud wrestling. I'm Chris Hart.
Oh my gosh.